Okay, for our last question here, guys, all right, we are given that in triangle ABC, BF is an angle bisector of angle ABC. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start marking some stuff, okay? So I'm going to choose pink to be what I'm working with. So I know those two angles right there are congruent because it's an angle bisector. We're also given that AE, BF, and CD are medians, which means that P is the centroid. So medians deal with midpoints. So all of these, all right, so that means that D is a midpoint. F to FC have to be congruent because F is the midpoint. And same with these these two segments right here. Okay? Now, when we're also talking about centroids, remember we're talking about 2/3 and 1/3, and also a 2-to-1 ratio when we're looking at the two specific segments, all right, within the full segment. So here we go. Number 1 says find x if DP is 4x minus 3 and CP is 30. Okay, so we're looking at the two segments within, all right, a full segment, which means that the long segment is a 2-to-1 ratio, all right, to the small segment, okay? So if you're given that CP is 30, all right, that means that you have to multiply DP, all right, by 2 in order to set that equal. Okay? The other way you could have done it, and that's what I'm going to do right now, is that you could have actually cut, all right, that CP in half, and you'd have 4x minus 3 is equal to 15, and then you solve from there. Okay? All right. Our next one then says find y if AP is y and EP is 18. So this is 18 and this is y. Okay? So once again, we're looking at the two segments within the full segment of AE, and we once again know it's a 2-to-1 ratio. All right? AP has to be double the size of EP, so we are going to go ahead and multiply EP by 2, which means that y is equal to 36. All right. Next one says find z if FP is 5z plus 10 and BP is 42. So it's going to be very similar to what we did with number 1. All right. We have to double the short one and set it equal to the larger of the segments within the full segment, all right? Which means that we have 2 times 5z plus 10 is equal to 42, and then you can solve from there, okay? All right. So our last question here, all right, I don't know if you noticed, but what I did was I actually just copied and pasted this question up here. All right, this little figure, just so that I have more space to actually like write things down, okay? So if you read question 4, it says if the measure of angle ABC, all right, is x, okay? So this entire angle right here is x. And the measure of angle BAC is equal to the measure of angle BCA, okay? Which is equal to 2x minus 10. Which means that both of these are 2x minus 10. What we're trying to figure out here is if BF is an altitude, all right? And so if we want BF to be an altitude, it means that these have to intersect, all right, at right angles because they have to be perpendicular. So what we need to figure out is if that's a right angle, which means does that equal 90? All right, so our game plan for this, I know we're not doing a proof, all right, but what our game plan is to figure out is if BFC is equal to 90. So in order to do that, we need to find x first. And so you're given 3 angles within a triangle. And so we know, all right, from last chapter that the 3 angles have to add up to 180. So you get 5x minus 20 is equal to 180. All right, you solve that and you get x is equal to 40. Okay, so how does that help us? That's the question, all right? So let's actually start with this angle ABC because we know that angle ABC is x, which means that angle ABC has to equal 40 degrees, okay? But then more specifically, we're given all the way up in these directions, all right, that BF is an angle bisector, which means that each of these angles here have to be 20 degrees, okay? Now, I'm also going to take that 40 and I'm going to substitute it in for this angle C right here. All right, so the 2x minus 10. So I'm going to get 2 times 40 is 80 minus 10. All right, that angle right here is equal to 70. All right. So let's focus. All right, let's focus on what we're really trying to show, which our game plan is that BFC, angle BFC is 90. So why don't we focus on this triangle right here? Okay. So what we need to figure out is, does, with that given information, all right, that angle equal 90, which it would have to, all right, because if you add the 20 plus 70 together, you would get 90, and if you subtract that from 180, that means that that missing angle has to be 90. And if that angle is 90, that means that that's a right angle. And if that's a right angle, that means that BF has to be perpendicular to AC, which means that BF is an altitude, okay? So I hope this was helpful. Please make sure that you go back through and retry the ones that you weren't sure of. All right, that's how you study math.